But for something like this was such a treat.
Yeah, we got a new series.
We're all sitting around, and it was me, him, and Ted, and nothing's there. And we just jumped right in, and they were like, and action.
Holy shit.
You should be going to school every day with John.
No thanks.
You might have fun. I usually get, the edgy, the drunks, the street lady.
But ultimately, you just kind of learn where he lives in space.
The hooker with a heart of gold. The weird neighbor.
You start to be able to visualize him anywhere.
Yeah.
But you still got to base it in some sort of reality, and that's where the words come in. So it was this cool marriage of all these things, and hopefully it works, I hope.
I gotta say, as a fan of the films, this is better than the movies. You guys nailed it.
Whoa!
What?
He's genius.
You're a genius.
Watching this literally hurt. I was laughing so hard. This series is hilarious. And I was a big fan of the films, but this is just on another level. I gotta say, Giorgia, Blair is such an interesting character here because you've got that older sister dynamic. And there's like some really good story here beyond just it being funny. There's actually some character development. What did you find most likable about this character?
I think, Blair is just, she's super, ironically, I know she comes off as kind of tough and, in her ways and strict with her words, but she's just ultimately an uplifting character. She wants, in her own way, she wants to tell the family how to do better and how to be better and how to be kinder. And, sometimes she doesn't go about it exactly the way that I would, but she's got some harsh choice of words, but I just thought that she was smart and edgy, and I love her stance on things. So it was really fun and easy for me to jump into her.
Hey, Johnny. How bad is school gonna suck?
You're not gonna like it.
How bad?
Well, it's like getting your nuts smashed together so hard they become just one nut.
I'm going to start this out with a bang for the two of you. This is better than the movies. This is better than the two Ted movies, hands down. You two
Are you
awesome.
serious? You think?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I'm going to start. I'm
Oh my
going to
gosh,
thank you because
thank you.
I can only speak for myself, but actors are a bit insecure. I am anyway.
I am
And to
too.
hear you say that really fuels what we have coming up.
We have not heard
Appreciate
that.
it a
Thank
lot.
you so much.
No, I would not have fun. I guard the house when you guys are out.
What happened to the TV?
It was an accident.
You're going to school and you're gonna grow a fucking brain.
Oh, come on!
And Max, I think maybe you had a more difficult job here because you're, I think, the only character. John's the only one that was in the movies besides Ted. So did you look to the films to inform your character, or did you take it in a different direction?
I mean, I did a bit of both. I would be an idiot to ignore the two Ted movies. Mark Wahlberg absolutely killed it as John Bennett. I think we all know. But this is it's different. It's the same guy, but he's 16 years old. He's not yet who he is in the movies. And we've got Blair trying to put some spin on the ball so that maybe he doesn't end up like he does in the movies. But yeah, it's a different guy, and I very much tried hard not to be doing a Mark Wahlberg impression, even though I am trying to sound as much like him as possible.
Hey, dog, you bringing your dolls to school?
It's the 90s. Times are changing.
Is that accent a tricky accent to do?
It is definitely tricky to latch onto. There's so much stuff where if you dive too deep into some of the vowels, you start to sound like you're from Brooklyn or Jersey. That sort of family of accents can be very similar to each other. But once I sort of got it down with the dialect coach, and once we started actively, shooting the series, then it got quite a bit easier over time. And now you can just sort of flip a switch.
The movies are funny, but they have that movie feel. There's a finite beginning, middle, and end. But because this is stretched, you get to know the characters more. There's much more nuance to everybody. Both of your characters, there's so much more to them. And Scott, I want to start with you. You've worked with Seth multiple times. You've done the animation. You're awesome in the Orville. This is very different for you because I think it's almost like a cartoon character come to life. How did you figure out how to play Maddie?
I needed, because I wasn't really talking Seth into hiring me, but it was the process of him going, would you want to do this? Can you do this? I'm like, I don't know. Could I do that? was the challenge for me, because the one thing Seth and I were worried about is having it look like Gordon from Orville. So, my idea was originally a beard. He said, no, how about just a mustache? Cool. Then I said I should curl my hair, like everything we could do to make it different. So that was the challenge for me. And then I'm from the Boston area, so that wasn't too challenging. But then to make him loud, and him and I deciding, let's exaggerate this guy so much. And you said it yourself. It's a cartoon character come to life, but you still got to base it in some sort of reality. And that's where the words come in. So it was this cool marriage of all these things, and hopefully it works. I hope.
He's genius.
You're a genius.
Sexual education. Let's start with masturbation.
If you're going to assign homework, Johnny already did it this morning.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
And playing in a series where you're acting, one of the main characters is a CGI creation. Does that present its own challenge, trying to act opposite something that is not there?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did get used to it, but the first couple days I got really frustrated. I remember my first day working, because we shot out of order. My first day filming, I had to, I think, hand Ted something, and we're all sitting around, and it was me, him, and Ted, and nothing's there, and we just jumped right in, and they were like, and action, and I was like, well, where do I look? Hold on, so I had to kind of figure that out, and it was really frustrating. But ultimately you just kind of learn where he lives in space.
You start to be able to visualize him anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So it became easier, but it was difficult.
You're both so funny. And Alanna, I was watching this and I thought Alanna was in this show. I didn't recognize you. You look completely different. And it's, beyond the hair, the voice, everything. It's a total character. And when I started to think back,
That makes me very happy.
Yeah, and all the iconic moms in television history, this is going to fall right in there, because she is
Shut the front door.
I agree.
Yeah, there's the scene in the first episode that cemented it. It's the scene at the meal when you are refusing to swear. It's like that moment. For the rest, I was hooked. How did you feel playing this character?
Oh gosh, I was terrified. I've never played a character like this before in my life. I usually get, the edgy, the drunks, the street lady, the hooker with a heart of gold, the weird neighbor. But for something like this was such a treat. And it was an honor for Seth MacFarlane to trust me with this character, a character that's very personal to him, and a character that I thought, well, I really, really, I hope I can bring something to the table that is different and that people haven't seen before. And here we go. And I thought there's who is like her. Okay, I'll add this person I once knew, and that person, and this person, and there we go. But to actually,
Did you murder these people?
Yes,
and
I
bring them
did.
to your home?
Yeah, they are in my trunk as
Oh
we
my
speak,
God.
rotting the fluvia.
You and me have been best friends like our whole lives. We're about to get high for the first time.
Can we have drugs, please?
So Georgia, there's a scene in the first episode where you take Ted and you hold him up against the wall. Were you holding an actual teddy bear for that scene?
So for that, something that they would do was they had Ted kind of cut up into pieces.
Yeah, they had chopped up parts of him.
Chopped up parts of Ted. So they had his bust, his body. And that's what I slammed up against a wall. And I had to look just at the wall, and hopefully, I was like, is this where his eyes are? And, so that was really fun though. That worked so much better than I was expecting. So I was very nervous about that, but it looks great.
You could obviously create these from scratch. And was there any iconic characters from television or film, parents, that you channeled in informing these characters?
Well, I was afraid to watch anything because I tend to mimic. I really tend to mimic. That's my thing. I just go to the mimic place. So I thought, oh gosh, he's not going to want that. So I'm just going to ground her as much as I possibly can and personalize all of these people and keep her, listening to really sweet, soft classical music in her head. And oh, here we go. That was it.
Seth gave me the DVDs for All in the Family and never said, I want you to be Archie Bunker. And I watched them. I realized for a second I started to go, okay, should I talk softer and go like, what are you doing? Because Carol O'Connor had this great way of talking soft, but yet having this energy of whatever he was saying. I went, no, I got to be louder. But I think what I took from that was what Seth was giving it to me for, which was to have a man be able to say these horrible things, but you're not mad at him. You either feel bad for him, or he's going to change because of other people in the house.
Are you crazy if you don't feel bad for him?
Yeah.
I mean,
so make him dumb enough where people are like, oh, he's misinformed and he's ignorant, instead of being abusive, and that was the line I tried to go down. I think the perm and the mustache definitely helped people go, oh, this poor guy.
Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Can you guys believe we're like having an experience in reality?
Is there a fucking gas leak or something?
So this is absolutely hilarious. I was rolling laughing watching this, and I loved both of the movies, but this feels very much like a sitcom. Was there a desire to kind of emulate 90s sitcoms? Was that kind of the approach? Paul, we can start with you.
Well, I wouldn't say that was the approach to emulate the sitcoms, but we definitely were conscious of making it a sitcom and sort of taking what you would do in a movie and sort of splitting it up into more of an episodic nature. And so, yeah, I think we wanted to get that sitcom feel, get that episodic feel, so that we could tell more stories over the course of what is a single year, basically.
Also, Seth and we are huge fans of All in the Family, so that was a huge influence and part of the discussion early on, that this would be that type of a situation comedy, that type of a family show that would sort of go at those sorts of issues in hopefully an edgy but relatable way.
And there's shows like the Goldbergs that are set in the 80s and really evoke the 80s. I grew up in this era, and so the 90s, it smacks of the 90s, and it's hilarious how it really fits in there. And were there any elements of the decade, moving on through the season, that you felt like needed to be central to the plot, or was that just kind of tangential?
There was nothing that we were sort of fixated on, like making sure we got into the show, but there are things that sort of organically lent themselves to sort of solving story problems, and that was exciting. So as you're breaking a story and you realize, oh, we can tie this into something that was going on at the time, or something that happened back then, the same thing, and it was exciting when those things fit in and worked. The last episode of this season, there's an example of that, where there's this big cultural event that plays an important role in the plot. And the moment that we all figured that out was exciting.
And that's it. Like, we also were able to recreate things like video stores and have them go to those stores. And that was really fun to see, like, the amazing job that the crew, the props and the set dressers did recreating that look, and sort of honestly doing the research and going on eBay to make sure we got actual genuine articles that we could use on the set.
Was there anything that you felt maybe you weren't going to be able to get away with in live action that a cartoon could do?
Interesting. It was that certainly what I was curious about as we sort of began the project was how much of the tone of the movie would become a tone of the show. And I think it did translate well. There were some adjustments. Some of them are sort of like micro adjustments you can't even necessarily at the time realize you're making, but we did have to adapt it slightly. It helps that Ted is surrounded by a family, especially like the character Blair, who's a juxtaposition to this and sort of helps ground and push back on some of this edgier stuff.
I think that's one of the advantages of being on Peacock, is that we did get away with some of the stuff that when we started the process, we just weren't sure about, but it actually wound up working out pretty well.